Hello and welcome back to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Ferguson, writer for UCLA on SI. Today we're going to be taking a look at UCLA's huge 20-point win against number 9 Nebraska, how the Bruins got there, as well as the implications of a win like this, and as well as kind of breaking down how each Bruin played and contributed to a win of this caliber. But before we get started, I want to thank everyone right now who's listening, Apple Music, Spotify, or even YouTube. It all means so much to me, and I cannot thank you enough. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So to kind of set the stage for how important winning this game was for UCLA, is kind of important, realizing the implications of, winning a game this late in the season against, a top 10 AP ranked team. UCLA was able to beat Illinois, coming back from that 23-point deficit, capped off by a Donovan Dent buzzer beater. The next game, UCLA was able to roll past USC by 19 points. And a lot of people thought UCLA was about to run the table to finish the season, Minnesota, Nebraska, and then USC to end the season again. But the Bruins, failed. They lost to Minnesota. They fell flat. They lost, I believe, 78-72. An away game, always going to be difficult for the Bruins, as we've seen this season. But that kind of set the stage for how important this game would be. If UCLA were to lose this game, there is a good chance the Bruins miss the outright. You can't lose to a team who is sub 500 away, this late into the season. And that's why the stakes of this game were set so high. And I thought UCLA knew this, and they really played to what they needed to do to win this game. And honestly, I am shocked by how well UCLA was able to play in this one. It was an all-around complete performance. Even though there were only 2 people who were able to graze double-digit points. We'll kind of get into them a little bit later. But still, I thought when you look at what UCLA did, the intensity they showed, all around UCLA played well. They shot 47% from the field. Obviously, that number is kind of deflated after, garbage time happened and, there were some, second stringers in there chucking up shots. But still, I thought UCLA was able to, the fact that UCLA was able to get in that position against the number 9 team in the country, that means something, especially if you're a voter on, Selection Sunday, kind of figuring out where UCLA fits and, such a big bracket. You look at how UCLA was able to play against Nebraska and you're thinking they deserve, a top seed. They've proven to be able to beat some of the best, but the only caveat to that is that UCLA has really struggled to play on the road. So I feel like that could, hurt their chances of getting a much higher seed. Right now, I'm thinking UCLA will be in the 8 to 9 range, maybe even a 10 seed. You never know, what's going on in the voters' minds, but I still think that this win sent a huge message that UCLA knows how to play against some of the best teams in the nation. Entering this game, Nebraska, I believe, is a top 5 ranked defense. That was something that I thought UCLA would struggle against, but it was clear right from the start that UCLA had no trouble scoring on Nebraska. And we'll kind of get into, the players who kind of contributed to this, but still, UCLA proving that, they beat number 4 Purdue at the time. Obviously, that loss has kind of lost some weight. And then obviously that comeback against Illinois, a team who's been, great all season. I think they were around that, that number 5 to number 7 range. I don't know what they're ranked right now, but still a massive win. Looks great on any resume, no matter what team you are. But again, UCLA having to kind of dig themselves out of that hole following the Minnesota loss was integral to this game and the mindset heading into it. I thought UCLA did exactly that. And, as a Bruins fan, you can only sit back and smile. Just an excellent game all around from the Bruins. I will kind of breeze past the things that I thought UCLA kind of struggled with. But besides that, again, UCLA played a great game. But now I'm going to kind of break down, player performances, and then we're going to kind of get into, what UCLA did bad as a team, as well as kind of some of the things they did good. Starting off, Donovan Dent. I thought he would play more of a role in this one. But again, it seemed like that Minnesota game is kind of lingering in his head. He was only able to score 4 points, went 2 of 8 from the field, missed both of his 3-point shots, and was able to accumulate 8 assists while playing 31 minutes. He also had 4 personal fouls in this one, so he was kind of getting a little choppy, but still, Donovan Dent is going to be there, that guy who's going to be that court general, set up plays. He also only had 1 turnover this game, so that is something that we've seen from Dent lately. I think in his last 4 games, he's only had one or like 2, 3 turnovers, somewhere around there. So again, that is something Dent knew he needed to fix, and I thought he's been able to address that adequately. I would still like to see more shooting from him. I think his 8 assists are fine. What we saw kind of before this game against Minnesota, I believe he had 15. That's just an exceptional performance no matter what. So now that Dent's kind of back down to earth, UCLA has been able to show that they have been able to kind of win without his, impact. That's kind of a reason why UCLA struggled against Minnesota. Shots simply were not falling for Dent. But now that UCLA has kind of identified what they can do when Dent is not playing his best basketball, it has made UCLA a more complete team. And honestly, this performance proved that UCLA as a whole does not necessarily need one of their better players to kind of pull off wins like this. Will it stick? I don't think so. I think Dent will return to form very soon. I mean, he just scored 30 points against USC, and the next game is going to be against USC. So again, we're going to see a lot more Donovan Dent in that one, I'm sure. I'm not, upset with this performance. He did what he had to do. Defensively, he also played very good. Again, 4 personal fouls. He was definitely, making more of an effort. And that's the key to UCLA's success lately, that effort factor that has not really been there before, the Illinois win. But overall, not a bad game from Donovan Dent. I would like a little bit more. But the standard he set himself, he played below expectations, but still, he wasn't really needed. It simply was not his night. And we'll get to the next player whose night it actually was. And that is Trent Perry. He had 20 points, shot 8 of 15 from the field. He had 50% from the 3-point line. He went 3 of 6. He also had 7 rebounds and 4 assists. It can't get that much more complete. Perry was the reason why UCLA was able to jump out to, these crazy leads. Again, they won this game by 20. There were times where, Nebraska would kind of chip away. I think at one point they were down, only 10 to UCLA. And that's where Perry really stepped up. He was able to hit a 3, push that lead right back out. And overall, again, just kicking the dog when it's down is exactly what Trent Perry did. And I like to see this aggressiveness even this late into the game. But overall, what really shocked me though, watching Perry play in this one, was his 7 rebounds. And I couldn't tell if this was by design or if that's just how it looked. There were many times, with UCLA running that 3-guard look, obviously there are going to be players in, positions that you don't normally think they will be in. And a lot of the times I saw Perry, in the paint as the only guy when, Bilodeau, Daly were all behind the arc. So again, I thought, Trent Perry playing that role, being, the team's offensive rebounder, defensive rebounder, whatever you want to, categorize it. He did both very well. But it's going to be interesting to see if that's what Mick Cronin's vision is for Trent Perry. If he does want him playing, in the paint alone, it's a little risky. There were times where there's some defensive breakdowns. And again, I thought Perry still held his ground well. And 7 rebounds from a guard, you can't really complain no matter what angle you look at it, even if it was by design or just, an impromptu great board getting game for Perry. But overall, when you're looking at this performance, you can only give him an A+. Just a beautiful game from Perry. Following the Minnesota game where he only had 0 points, this was a huge step in the right direction. And if he can maintain this against USC and even into the tournament, I think UCLA has a really good chance of, breaking that, Sweet 16 ceiling, or even maybe the Elite 8 if UCLA can really catch fire, which is honestly more likely than not. Again, playing on the road, it's going to be a little bit more tricky, but still, I think UCLA will be fine if they could start to play like this night in and night out. The next player I want to talk about is got to be Eric Daly Jr. He had a good game against Minnesota, against Illinois. I think he was pretty absent. He didn't really do much. But again, his consistency is starting to remain more stable. Back-to-back double-digit games. He shot the ball well. He scored 14 points, went 6 of 9 from the field, along with 1 3-pointer on 3 attempts. He also had 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and stayed out of foul trouble with only 2 personal fouls on the night. Great step in the right direction for Eric Daly. I loved how he played. For a while this season, he was UCLA's leading rebounder. That was kind of taken away by Tyler Bilodeau, but Bilodeau's obviously going to Bilodeau. He's a great player. And you can't really blame Daly for, losing that title as the Bruins' best rebounder. but 8 rebounds, huge performance from Daly. Every time he got the ball, a lot of games you would hold your breath, but this game you simply did not have to. You knew he was going to score. What separates Daly from the rest of the UCLA players that I feel is his ability to really change the momentum in a snap of a finger, right? There was a time where, again, Nebraska was kind of starting to get a lead. I'm not a lead, but they were starting to catch up and really pressure the Bruins. And that's when Daly would get a steal, march down the court, slam dunk, huge pop from the crowd. And that's going to send a psychological shock to, both teams, the Bruins, the Cornhuskers. That's going to change the game. And I thought that's exactly what Eric Daly Jr. was able to do in this game. I love to see it. If he can get in transition, on the fast break more often, I think the Bruins will be able to turn the tide in games where, they feel like they're outmatched. Momentum is a huge thing in college basketball. Runs are very important. If Daly can be the spark later in the season, I think UCLA has a great chance of, making a deep tournament run. I got to give him another A+ here. Just overall loved how he played, solid performance. If he can maintain this, that's the only question that is on my mind following this performance. Sky Clark, he was a little quiet in this game, 8 points, 3 of 9. He went 2 of 8 from the 3-point line. He also had 4 rebounds and 2 assists. He also had 4 personal fouls, so he was kind of getting into a little bit of foul trouble. But I got to say, I'm a little disappointed by Sky Clark. I thought against Minnesota, he played well. I think he had 17 points, 6 of 9, very similar to Trent Perry's performance against Illinois. But still, that doesn't really matter. But I just want to point that out. I really did expect double-digit points from Clark. I predicted that he would maybe even go for 30. It was a hot take article. So again, not, set in stone, not an analytical, prediction, but still, I really am disappointed by how Sky Clark played. There were times kind of like how I mentioned with Daly where, Nebraska would start to get on UCLA's heels and, Clark would come out and hit a nice 3 to, again, push the lead and kind of take the air out of the Huskers. But overall, I want to see more from Clark. He played 30 minutes in this one. And with that little of production, you kind of, get a little annoyed by what Clark is doing. But overall, great player, just not his night. Again, the 2 players I mentioned before him obviously stole the show. And you simply can't argue with that. We knew that, getting a volume with this new look UCLA team was going to be difficult. And I think, Clark has been, on the back end of that, having to deal with, Perry, shooting 15 shots, Dent also shooting 8, and then obviously Eric Daly Jr. shooting 9. But again, just a lot of shots going up. Didn't really give Clark an opportunity to find his rhythm fast. His, 8 attempts were a little sporadic, or his 9 attempts were a little sporadic, spread across, half to half. And I think that really did impact him in a way. Honestly, a C+ here fits. Not the best game from him, but overall, I think he will be able to move on very soon, and he has to. As UCLA's probably best 3-point shooter, that is a role that he needs to really, find himself within and really get things going for the Bruins. Next player, Tyler Bilodeau, almost a very similar performance to Sky Clark, 8 points, 3 of 9, 2 of 5 from the 3-point line, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, did not have a foul in this game. Again, kind of like, the same problem with Sky Clark. Bilodeau was not getting many shot attempts up. It took him a while before he made his first bucket. Again, Perry and Daly really took over in the first half, which kind of caused him to go on a slow start. Am I worried about Bilodeau? Not at all. Again, UCLA's lineup is very, very stacked with players who want to score the basketball and can at a high rate. When things get rough for the Bruins, Bilodeau will always be that guy to kind of help them out. He just came off of a 32-point performance against Minnesota. So it was expected that some of these shots were going to not fall, eventually. That's just kind of how it goes, especially with how the Bruins have been playing. I'm not worried, but still, I want to see a little bit more. I thought double digits were well within reach for Bilodeau. And in a game against the number 9 team in the country, I want to see more from him. But again, not very worried about this performance, all things considered. But kind of just going to breeze down the bench and what I saw. Xavier Booker, perfect game from him. He played only 9 minutes, but he was able to score 8 points. He went 3 of 3 from the field and 2 of 2 from the 3-point line. He only had 2 rebounds in this one. The reason that he did not play many minutes, in my opinion, I don't know what Mick Cronin's thinking, but there were a lot of times where you saw a lack of effort from Booker. He got hot shooting wise. And then after that, it seemed like he kind of took the night off on defense, and that's not what Mick Cronin wants. He's made that very clear that if you're not going to show effort in this game, the more times than not, you are going to get taken out. But still, I liked how he played. He was able to provide points when UCLA starters were unable to. And again, that was contributed to, a steady stream of UCLA points throughout this game, which is something the Bruins have kind of struggled with in all their games this season. I mean, Illinois, for example, a 23-point deficit doesn't happen by mistake. Obviously, UCLA has struggled with some inconsistency issues, and that's where Booker really needs to kind of step in and, be the guy who's able to provide very easy points and really catch the other team off guard and keep them on their toes. I can't complain with how Booker played. Again, I want to see more on defense, but still, offensively, great night for Booker. Really set the tone early and fast. Another player I really want to mention, though, is Brandon Williams. We really haven't seen much of Brandon Williams lately. He was able to put up 6 points, 2 of 2 from the field. And he was also able to record 3 rebounds. He played 12 minutes. With the little minutes he had, he made an impact. I believe he drew a flagrant 1 later in the second half, which really kind of, hurt Nebraska mentally. Hard fouls like that is, a key, indicator of a lot of frustration going on the other side of the bench. Again, I liked how Brandon Williams played. It seems like he's going to fill in that Booker role, considering the minute differential. Again, Booker only played 9, and not that much of an increase, but seeing that game and what Brandon Williams was able to contribute, I wouldn't be surprised to see him play a lot more minutes down the stretch, especially with, it seems like UCLA is really relying on their guards right now to score. But, if Brandon Williams is able to provide points, easy points, it's going to make a lot more sense to see him play more. And when he would score, it seemed like it came so easy. UCLA looked like they were drawing up plays for him. There was an inbound where they just threw the ball right at him underneath the basket, and he was able to score very easily. And that's exactly, what I want a UCLA big man to be able to contribute. But great game from Williams. I want to see more of this, hopefully. But again, he will be a huge piece if UCLA hopes to make a run. Depth has been a problem for UCLA, and if Williams is able to soften, that blow against some of these better teams UCLA is definitely going to face following this game, I think that's only a good thing for the Bruins as a whole. Eric Freni, 4 points, 5 rebounds, played 18 minutes, a lot more minutes than I'm sure he's used to playing, but he made the most of it. The crowd at one point was chanting his name. Just a huge sign that you're doing something right in the blue and gold. And, you really can't complain with a performance like that. So that's kind of all I really want to talk about when it comes to player performances. I was a little sad Jamerson didn't play a minute in this game, but kind of looking at overall what happened for the Bruins, I think it's clear that, UCLA has kind of started to find a balance that hasn't been there before. And because of that, I think UCLA is a much more dangerous team. But looking ahead against USC, I think the Bruins need to win this game by at least 20 to, really seal the deal on a high seed. This game, in my opinion, really clinches where UCLA should be in the bracket. Again, that 9-8 seed, wherever you want to put them, I think UCLA will do well, and I think they fit the mold of a team of that caliber. The resume is really starting to pick up steam now with wins over Purdue, Illinois, and now Nebraska. UCLA is looking good. But again, they had to finish the season off strong. USC away. I don't think that is going to play much of a role because, again, same city. UCLA struggles when they have to go more out east. with Chad Baker-Mazzaria now not playing for the Trojans. This opens a huge window for UCLA to win that game by at least 30 points. If they were able to beat him by 19 with him, I think without your best player, locker room's probably demoralized. I think UCLA should be able to win by a huge margin. But that's all I have today. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Another huge win for the Bruins entering into tournament season. And yeah, I'm happy with the win. I hope you guys are. And just a great win for the Bruins overall. But again, that's all I have today. I'm your host, Andrew Ferguson. And as always, fours up and have a good day.